The community department floated the idea to a few of the players for a trip to India, and I thought it couldn't miss this opportunity. I thought it'd be fantastic to come and experience more of the culture and their way of life in India.
Indians are the highest number of migrants to Australia at the moment. What Essendon's doing with the Embracing in India strategy that they have, where they're coming to the local grassroots level, they're coming out, interacting with Indian families, getting them to experience what footy is, learn a bit about footy, learn about what sports is and how important sports is in the Australian culture.
I wanted to go straight away. It's definitely somewhere that's always been on a bucket list of mine, to be able to go to a country like India and experience different cultures. It's totally different to what is here in Australia. And then when we go back to Melbourne, bring that tie and connection across all the kids in the community in Melbourne.
When we first got here, no doubt the guys had a little bit of a culture shock. I knew that there would be people everywhere. Obviously, in a small land, there's just a huge amount of people here. I knew it'd be chaotic.
Every 100 metres you walk, there's a different smell on the street, so that was very different. And then the heat, obviously, you just keep sweating it all parts of the day, even in the night.
I think it was about 35 degrees Celsius when we arrived, and that really struck the whole group as soon as we got outside the airport.
Obviously, we're a different group of people and looked a bit different, so the eyes of everyone sort of were attracted on us.
We stand out like, that everyone was staring at us and wanted photos and all that sort of stuff, even though they didn't know who we were or where we come from.
You're pretty distinctive, all Aussies walking through, quite tall.
They obviously come up and check where they fit on the scale of our height, and shortly after they'll ask for a photo and then they'll walk off giggling. It was sort of like being out on the MCG with everyone watching you, but just so many eyes on you at one time.
Our first stop was the east coast city of Calcutta, which is home to around 5 million people. We then have to travel to the SOS village, but not before all escaping death pretty much on the Indian roads.
They've got their lanes, but they somehow find an extra 2 or 3 lanes.
Yeah, there's a lot of beeping. Every second there's beep, so just got to get used to it, I guess.
It was just so busy and cars everywhere, sound everywhere, beeping horns and just people, flooding the street.
We stopped on the side of the highway, didn't know what was going on. Getting our footies pumped up for the SOS village and the school visits, so hopefully it gives them some footies and they can use them, so we'll see how we go.
Morning. How are you, brother?
SOS Village is an international organization which provides a home for the destitute children. SOS was set up in 1964 by the late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. It provides a home for the homeless. They provide a parent, a mother, a father, a brother and sister. So that's very important for the development of the children.
It's funny, you look at the kids and they're no different to ourselves when we were that age, sort of mucking around in the school grounds, and then you sort of take a moment to think, you know, how, I guess, unfortunate they are at the beginning to, I suppose, I guess you could say they're deprived children that end up in those, the SOS village and the school. So such a rough beginning, but so yet again so fortunate to end up in a program like that.
When Zach met this little boy who had cerebral palsy, and you could see that Zach was really touched by that, and he just got down on his knee, and he just wanted, you could just feel it at that time. And then the other guys came around, and you know, you're just sitting with that little boy.
There was a little kid with crutches come along. He has a virus in his nervous system, so he couldn't quite walk. But we presented Essendon little singlet and a yo-yo. Don't think he understood what Essendon was, but yeah, he had a smile and he tried to speak English, which was good fun, and got a photo with him. So that was probably my highlight of the trip.
The boys, they were really genuinely, you could see that they had an interest. They mingled with everybody, they had a great time with the kids, which was my highlight, was just seeing the way they interacted with the kids, which was fantastic. Dyson, he would walk around saying namaste to everyone, which was really nice, because that's the greeting in India, and you know, saying goodbye, and he would say that to everyone, and it was just really pleasant. And the boys, they were really genuinely, you could see that they had an interest.
These kids come from in all shapes and sizes off the street, and these people provide a great education for them that they might not otherwise get. It was quite an eye-opening experience, just how enthusiastic these kids were about learning in school, and it was a great setup there, and we went and took the footies to those kids as well, and then just had a bit of kick around with them. You know, it was fantastic. I think the goalkeeper for their school soccer team was, I sort of latched onto him a bit, so he was a good knacker, and you know, gave him a footy at the end, and you know, it was pretty emotional, but it was great.
They thoroughly enjoyed it, and they were not ready to leave you guys. They were telling me, ma'am, bring them again and again, again and again.
In India, they get to see the stark differences between, you have people who can't even, you know, have an ambition as to, hey, I want to be a footy star, or I want to play footy, or anything like that. People are still trying to get bread and butter on their tables. What the boys took away from that, I think, is just embrace life.
They've come from nothing, and really they still have nothing, and they're so loving, caring, you know, so cruisy, nothing really phases them. They want to learn, you know, willing to give everything a go, and it is quite inspirational to see that.
Without doubt, the biggest day of our trip was a special skills clinic we held on the Indian-Bangladesh border.
We had about a 3.5 hour drive to the clinic, and stinking hot, and the roads were something like we've never seen before, and the driving skills of our driver were quite fierce, and I actually sat in the front seat for a little while and regretted it straight away with oncoming traffic coming straight at the car and dodging and weaving.
We arrived at this probably soccer pitch-sized bit of grass area, and it was quite interesting. We drove across the oval and parked under a tree, and there was no one around.
And within 2 minutes there was kids just flooding in from everywhere.
About 200 odd kids rocked up, and you know, they were so keen and eager to learn. They come from 10 hours away. They took trains, buses, trams. I don't know if they had trams, but they took everything to get here.
How are you guys? Going all right? David, guys. Good. Nice to meet you.
We promised our great friend of the footy club, Sadiq, who does a lot of work over in India, that we would take his teammates and also a lot of locals from the school and village out there through a skills clinic.
First team representing India was taken to Melbourne for the AFL International Cup. We were the lucky chaps to have trained at Windy Hill. When we were going through the museum at your club with all the trophies there, it was magnificent. When we have training in Calcutta, they do a 1 hour ride on the bicycle to the train station, and then take a 2 hour ride on a very crowded train to get to Calcutta, and then take another bus or a tuk-tuk to the ground. That's 3 hours journey just for 2 hours of training and 3 hours back. It's just out of passion. Whatever height, whatever size, shape, there is a position for you. And the fact that it involves the minimum costs in India Like, you don't require too much gear like cricket or American football.
I couldn't believe how passionate he was about the game. He knew a lot about myself, he knew a lot about the other boys and the Essendon Footy Club in general, and such a passionate man. I think he's a real inspiration and a real role model for a lot of younger people growing up and that want to get involved in the game and follow their passions, I guess. So, he's a great man, Sudhir. Yeah.
Essendon took this first step to come and help us out here back home because the main help comes in the form of getting proper training, because all the boys here have never got training from a proper coach.
Or true hands. Try to just put it as close as you can and then kick. Yeah, hit it where your right hand is. And then come around and hit it on the inside. We take a lot of clinics in Melbourne as part of what we do, but to come over here and just see the love that the kids had for it was quite special, and we did not expect to see the skills that they had.
We put them into lines to kick a ball, and we had the local, the local leaders or the local coaches there trying to help the kids, but the kids were like, no, we want to kick a ball with a Gora Bhaiya, and Gora means white and Bhaiya means older brother. So that's what they kept saying. Oh, I want to kick a ball with Bhaiya, with the Gora Bhaiya, and you could hear that all the time.
And pass.
They're so polite, so lovely, the kids, and they're actually very keen and eager to learn more about Australian rules footy, which probably surprised me a bit. They were really keen and wanted to learn.
It's something I'd never probably really expect that would happen in my lifetime, that I'm kicking a footy in such a remote part of the world.
The turnout was amazing. I was really surprised. They all come from the woodwork, and even the girls got involved and they loved it. They were so competitive and had a real crack.
That was really nice to see that the girls are getting a kick, and all the boys, the four of them, they all encouraged that. They said, no, give the girls a shot, and you could see that they were trying to give an equal opportunity to everyone.
There's a guy training here right now. 3 months back, he hadn't heard of footy, and he turned out to be one of our best players for the Indian team this side. He could be on the rookie list if he gets proper guidance. Maybe we are not that heavily built here, but the speed, the agility, even height could be what we could go for.
Good. And handball?
So far away from my home, in a different environment, a different country, that interacting with these kids, and that's how we're connecting through the sport of AFL.
4 top Essendon Football Club players in India coaching us. It's probably the biggest achievement so far for us. We can't explain it. It's like Sachin going to some other country to teach someone cricket.
They got a lot of enjoyment out of it. We got a lot of enjoyment out of it ourselves. Personally, just the enthusiasm of the kids and their willingness to learn about the AFL.
To meet kids that are just so enthusiastic about life, and we've brought a football over here to show them what we love, and they've just taken and run with it, and it's brought a smile to their face. So hopefully that we can see the passion that football gives us and the love we have for football can maybe flood India one day.
We just finished off our clinic that we ran with a few of the AFL India guys, so had a real good clinic, and then we'll just on our way back down near the Bangladesh border, and saw a few lads, army officials, in their cargoes and carrying AK-47s on their back, so I thought I'll give these blokes a nice wave. Anyway, on the way past, so they sort of looked at me funny, and they saw the rest of us in the bus. I think they saw Big Joey D's head in the front seat, and they jumped up real quick out of their seat and waved us down and made us pull over.
Yeah, I was definitely sweating a fair bit. Got pretty nervous when the guns came out.
So I was getting quite stressed, so I started yelling at our tour guide and Jeremy, and wondering exactly what we were doing there. But then all of a sudden next to me, Dice Heppel opens up just a couple of crackers, put some Vegemite on them and just start eating and go, you boys, like, what's wrong?
Dice sort of kept us pretty cool making his Vegemite saladas, but yeah, it was definitely nervous times, and I was pretty thankful when we got past patrol.
Couldn't believe Hep's calmness under pressure, because I was getting quite frustrated and nervous.
So we got the train from Delhi to Ranthambore, which is about a 4.5-hour trip. Yeah, so we've just got off the bus and walked about 500 metres to the train station. Gave the old antler bags a good test, but they held up no dramas, so about to get our bags loaded onto the train and hopefully get on safely and get on our way. The boys were a little bit rattled getting onto the train. Hep didn't cope too well.
Jumping on the train, probably getting a bit flustered at the start. So many people sniffing me and jumping on the train before me. I'm trying to lug bags on, so we got on eventually and soon settled down. It was a bit of a trek out to Ranthambore.
Hep was getting quite frustrated because he likes to keep his body in shape and he didn't really want just potato chips. So when he doesn't get his food, he can get quite angry. Quite hangry actually, hungry and angry.
I don't operate too good on an empty stomach. I get hangry when I get angry when I'm hungry. So you know, got a bit of food into me and I'll soon calm down. But yeah, you don't want me going hungry for too long.
Zaka was hating it. Zachy Merritt was complaining, but we eventually got there and sat down and got comfortable, and the boys really enjoyed it. So you know, that's just another part of why we're here, to experience different things, get out of our comfort zone. Just got off the train. What ended up being about a 4.5 hour journey, which was good. Obviously very excited to get here, and we've just hopped in the old combi vehicle, no roof, and this is going to be our vehicle for the safari tomorrow. So the boys are really excited.
I was personally very much looking forward to seeing a tiger in the wild in India. It's something that I love. I love animals. Massive animal lover. Tiger's one of my favourite animals, and never really got to see it, or haven't ever in the wild and in its natural environment, its natural habitat. So to visit Ranthambore National Park, where some tigers live, was something I was very personally looking forward to.
Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, it is one of the very famous tiger reserve in North India. The area is more than 1400 square kilometers, and tigers numbers are more than 50-55. In last 5 years, 6-7 years, the number of new tigers are also multiplying.
It was great in the morning. We got in there, we got excited. I was very excited, and then we got into the park, and for 3 hours we drove around. We saw some deer, which was exciting at first, and then once you see 10, 20, 30, 40 deer, it gets a bit boring, but unfortunately we didn't see any tigers in the morning. So then we waited about 3 or 4 hours, then come back for the evening safari.
To try and find a tiger, take 2. Let's go.
The guide said to us, our tour guide had said again that they'd seen some tigers around the area and there might be a good chance to see one of them. We drove in again on the same path in before we branched off into our area, and around the corner all of a sudden there was about 20 other trucks all gathered in one area, and our guy tried to speed up and it was absolutely chaotic.
Probably the first thought I thought there has to be a tiger there. There was about 10 odd trucks stopped and everyone pointing and hollering, so I thought we were on here.
And we got a glimpse of him, and then all of a sudden we walked straight across the road without a care in the world, not even looking at the trucks or anything, and then walked off into the left, into the distance, and we all had our phones out trying to get some photos and videos of it. T24 was the one that we saw. That's his name. He's actually had quite some interesting stories about his time with interaction with humans.
They're pretty majestic creatures. I think the old knacker that we saw had killed 4 people, so we saw the big king of the jungle, I think. So no, very exciting, and I got up and about, and all the other boys did too, so it was great. It was absolutely amazing seeing a tiger in his natural habitat, and you know, something that I'll probably never see again, which is real cool, yeah.
We just got to the train station nice and early. Just a very nice morning. Took the little safari bus into the train station, so now we're just waiting for our train to arrive in about 20 minutes, and then on our way to Agra. I think we got about a 3-hour train trek and then a couple of hours on the bus, so another busy day of travelling, but it'll be all worth it. Well, here comes our train for the day. About to load the bags up and get on our way to Agra, so she's not the slickest looking machine, but it'll do the job.
Our visit to the Taj Mahal was amazing. It's something that's on most people's bucket lists that love travelling. It's the 7th wonder of the world. It's whenever you see pictures of India, all you see is the Taj Mahal. It's a spiritual connection with the people of India. It's an amazing architectural structure. It's one of those places that you know it's amazing when you're standing right in front of it, and it looks like a postcard.
We've just been for a lurk through the Taj, an amazing building, sort of hearing about the history and how it was built and whatnot, and it's very amazing the finer details of the actual stone when you get inside. So an amazing sight to see, and you know, probably the best thing I've seen in my life. So it's amazing.
I'm very privileged and honoured to be able to go there and experience it, because it's something in my life I've always wanted to do. Yeah, it's quite a surreal experience, and yeah, it's something I'll always remember.
I think that the people that we've dealt with over here have found it quite strange but very intriguing, our game, and a lot of them obviously enjoy that contact because it's not what they're used to. They love their cricket, love their soccer, love their basketball, and we've showed them a different side of all those sports, and we're hoping that they'll pick it up pretty quickly and start to enjoy it, because we have a super love for this game, and hopefully people abroad can have the same love for it.
What is the average height in the game? Can the guys like us play this game?
Oh yeah.
There's 1.2 billion odd people here, so surely we can pluck one out of the woods, and they're so passionate about the game from what we've seen already, and I reckon if the more work that they put into those areas, the more passion that the kids get and people put into the game, I think we'll certainly see more and more people coming out of India to play AFL footy.
Having an Indian player within AFL would, it would create better links between the Indian community here in Australia, but also promote AFL India as well, promote the game in India. I think maybe someday we'll have a future footy star from India. Red and black would suit them as well. Yeah, definitely.
What do you think of footy?
It's good.
It's good?
I think I can play that.
You think you can play? A bit different?
Yeah, different, but I can tackle and...
You got the tackle, you got the speed, it's alright.
We're lucky enough to see a couple of stadiums over here, and one of them in particular in Calcutta, holding over 120,000 people, would be somewhere quite special to play. And I'm sure that's not too far around the corner for the AFL either.
I certainly think it'd be fantastic to play an AFL footy match over here. And the following that we've got within the Indian community around Melbourne is huge. So I think that it could be a massive coup for the club to sort of continue to promote the game over here and try and get more and more support for the game.
We need to take this game to bigger places, and that is taking it abroad. So hopefully that is the next step for the AFL, and something that I'd be really honoured to be a part of.
To put a trip on like this is an enormous experience for the boys that have been, and also the staff that have come along. We've sort of formed a pretty close bond with the group, and it's something that we will take life experiences away from this trip and sort of implement them into our daily routines within Melbourne.
We've got a large Indian fan base in Melbourne, and this trip just gives a couple of our players a broader perspective on where those people have come from. And now when we work with them through clinics and try and expand the game, that we've got a little bit of perspective of where they're from, and hopefully that makes the job a little bit easier for us to understand how they can enjoy football like we do.
And the people are very warm, and although they don't have much financially or anything like that, they're very warm and always have a smile on their face, and I guess we take things for granted they wouldn't. So yeah, it's been a great experience, and I've learned a lot of new things about myself individually.
I've actually fallen in love with India in the short space of time that we've been here, and it was a big culture shock to get off the plane and see what it was about. But as we've grown and learned a little bit more about the country, all the guys have really enjoyed it, and couldn't be happy to be a part of this program over here. And I think it's going to better us obviously individually, but in the long run we're hoping that our relationship with the Essendon Football Club and the Indian community can grow, and hopefully this isn't the last time that we're back here.
Oh, you're most welcome. We want you to come back again and establish your club in India, especially in Delhi.
This is what footy does to you in life. It opens up whole new experiences. Being with the Essendon Footy Club, get to travel to India, experience a connection with the Indian community, Indian culture. It's an amazing place, and we're connected because of a game of sport, and because we're embracing another culture around the world. It's an amazing thing that can happen, and very grateful for the opportunity to be able to travel to India.
They just, immerse themselves totally into the Indian culture, and I think they had a great time. Yeah.
This has been a Fox Footy presentation, part of the Fox Sports Network.